What's up, guys, and welcome to the NFL Week 4 player pool. Going to be going over a slate that contains a lot of games that make it look like it's going to be the highest scoring slate on the year for DraftKings lineups. I'm going to build some DraftKings lineups and go through the best matchups to target this week, and I'm going to do it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at PumaCom with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Player Pool. Looking at the Week 4 main slate this week, and there looks like there's going to be a lot of good matchups this week and a lot of high-scoring games. I think a lot of these games will probably go over the total, at least on paper. They look like they might, but I think that we can narrow down our targets to a few of these games, and I think there's some sneaky areas that we can get into. And I'm going to start building some lineups and go through the player pool in a minute. Just make sure to hit that like button. Looking for 50 likes to put out my favorite picks in the comment section as we get closer to lock. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking for 2,000 subscribers. I need about little under 100 to get there. I'm very close to hitting that 2,000 mark. So I definitely appreciate any help with accomplishing that. And also, you're going to want to subscribe because I'm going to be offering a free beta preview of my website that's coming out. It's going to be a huge resource for your NFL research, for DFS, for fantasy, for betting, for props, whatever you'd like to do with the NFL. I'm going to be having a massive resource for you guys, and I'm going to be offering my YouTube subscribers a free beta preview, and that's going to be coming up very shortly in the next couple weeks or so. So you're going to want access to that. Got to hit subscribe though, and help me get to 2,000. And as far as the likes, also hit that hype button. YouTube introduced a hype button, and that helps to get this show out there. And when more people watch these shows, it helps me give more incentive to keep pumping out this content. I also did a 2-game Monday slate, which I'm going to be putting up probably later on Sunday. Also got a showdown show for the Monday night game, and we're going to have a showdown show for the Sunday game coming up. So you're going to want to be subscribed and sign up for alerts to know when those are going to be hitting. So let's get into this. Let's get into this breakdown. So, like I said, it's a lot of good matchups on this slate. Last week I had my biggest hit of the season so far. It wasn't anything major, but it came from Underdog, and on Underdog I had a 5-player pick'em, and I ended up winning 87 times my money. It was a $10 bet. I won $875 on it. And it was from a video that I actually posted. I posted these exact picks in a video short that I had produced, before the Sunday slate last week. So that's another thing. You want to check the shorts, because I put these Underdog pick'em shorts up weekly and mainly for just about every single game slate too. And we've had some big ones hit in the past, but this is the biggest one yet. It ended up being an 87x hit. I had Luther Burden as a anytime touchdown. That's the one that really put this thing into the stratosphere as far as the return on it. He ended up hitting that early on in that game. Brandon Aubrey I had at 1.5 field goals made. I had him going higher than that number, and he hit that for me in the first quarter. We ended up with TJ Hawkinson, 5.5 targets, and that one made me sweat the most out of all these. He ended up hitting that with like a couple minutes left in the game, and he ended up catching a touchdown to put him at six total targets. Jake Browning, under 236.5 pass yards. That hit easily. And Russell Wilson was a gimme pick. So really, these Underdog gimme picks make it a lot easier to hit these 5-leg parlays, obviously. So it's really nice to get that. And if you see on my screen, I'm offering a promo code SEEK. It's Seek, and it's a play $5, and you're actually going to get $100 in bonus funds. They just changed it this week. I haven't updated my graphic. I say get 50. That's actually 100. So you're going to play $5, and you get a free $100 to play over there on Underdog. So you might as well take that up if you haven't subscribed to Underdog, or if you haven't signed up for an account yet. Take advantage of that deal, get that free 100, and join me on some of these pick'ems that I've been doing. All right, so let's go over to DraftKings. We'll take a look at the first game, Washington versus Atlanta. This is going to be an interesting game. Mariota looks like he's going to be starting this week. Let's just confirm that. We'll go over to the injury report. I like to look at all these injuries because the defensive injuries are the main thing that I'm interested in when I do this, so I can find some good matchup advantages for us that are going to elevate some of these unknown players or players that nobody else is thinking about. So Jaden Daniels is out. Terry McLaurin is out. Noah Brown is still out, so they're banged up on offense. Eckler's on IR. Probably he might be done for his career. And we got some other injuries on the offense here. As far as the defense, we're missing Jonathan Jones, Percy Butler, Will Harris, Dietrich Wise. So they're banged up on their defense as well. So that's going to set up potential. I won't say shootout, but I think it's going to be a game that has the potential to maybe go over the total. We're looking at, for this game, a 45.5 point total, with Atlanta as 1.5 point dogs in this one. So Washington are 1.5 point favorites. And it looks like we got Mariota in a revenge game against Atlanta, his team prior to Washington. So that should be a fun one. But let's take a look at Atlanta and see what the injuries are there before we dig in here. I got... Let's see. Storm Norton is still on IR at left tackle. Tyrone Wheatley. So they're missing some depth at their left tackle. Let's see. AJ Terrell is still out. That's good news for Washington's receivers. Jordan Fuller is on IR. Malik Verdon, a bunch of guys on IR and out. So got a lot of injuries to this secondary of Atlanta. So yeah, both these teams' injuries lend themselves to a weakened defenses, and the potential for this game to not shoot out, but go maybe higher than the total. So Mariota, we'll start with him. He's done pretty good this year so far. He had 21.3 DraftKings points last week. When he was filling in last year as well, he was getting over 21 points. So with Mariota, it seems like it's going to be almost I won't say a lock, but it'll be as close as you can get as a lock to getting 4 times your money with a $5,000 salary for Mariota. I think you could get over 20 DraftKings points in this one. And he's cheap. Michael Penix Jr., he's been struggling this year. He had a good week 1, but you can see his last couple weeks, he's been struggling. But he's a guy that can, if he's facing the right opponent, he can put up a bunch of points. And against Washington's been giving up 18.7 DraftKings points a game to quarterbacks. They've been giving up 26.9 to wide receivers. So that's going to set up Penix to potentially have a good game in this one. Could see him closer to that 24 mark that he had in week 1 against Tampa Bay. I think this is going to be a competitive game. These are a couple of teams that like to be aggressive, and the defenses are banged up. So that's like the perfect recipe to see a game go over the total. We're looking at a 45.5 point total. Like I said, like 1.5 point spread. It's like a perfect setup for for a sneaky game. Let's go and look at the ownership on Mariota before I call it sneaky. All right, so Marcus Mariota is looking at a 7.5 point percentage ownership. So that's pretty good. Gives us a nice discount ownership on him. I want to get a look at what Debo is looking like for his ownership, because he's in a good spot, and yeah, he's well under owned. He's under 10%. So yeah, so we got a good setup here with some of these guys if you want to use them. So as far as the running backs, Bijan, he's back to Bijan. He does not have a great matchup. They're only giving up 13.1 DraftKings points, and on the Washington side, that's a cluster on the running back situation in Washington, but Atlanta's only giving up 15.3 DraftKings points anyways. So I prefer to use the passing game in this one. That's another advantage for us in the potential of this one shooting out. Both these teams use a heavy dose of man coverage. So let's see who that benefits. All right, so man coverage on the Atlanta side, the beneficiary is going to be Darnell Mooney. He gets a 46% target share in man coverage. That's a small sample size. Let's take a look at him real quick. That's a small sample size. He's played in 2 games, but that's a huge target share for Darnell Mooney. He's going to be probably next to nothing for ownership, and he's cheap at 4,700. So Darnell Mooney is a guy that you're going to want to put on in your player pool this week, based off of the potential matchup here. Let me get an idea of what his actual ownership is. I'm interested in that now. Oh yeah, he's under 5%. So yeah, Mooney is going to be a good guy for us to put in our lineups. He can give us salary savings. He's got the perfect matchup. It's a game that could be more aggressive, and everybody else is on a bunch of these other games. So that's going to give us an opportunity to use a low-owned Mooney, or at least use him as a way to wedge in some of these guys in these other games and give us a low-owned ancillary player to help those stacks be unique that we're building in these other games. Deebo Samuel, 22-17, only had 5 DraftKings points last week, but like I said, Terry McLaurin is out this week, and let's see what kind of matchup they have here. Atlanta's been pretty good against the wide receivers, only giving up 18 DraftKings points a game. Deebo's been primarily a slot receiver. He's ran 74% of his routes in the slot. With McLaurin out, let's see who's going to be backing up his position here. So if McLaurin's out, looks like Luke McCaffrey might be interesting this week. Let's get a look at Luke McCaffrey. First, let's see what the points. Atlanta's gave up 18.1 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, 7.5 to slots. But AJ Terrell is out, and I don't think that Atlanta has. Let's see who they faced. Atlanta's faced Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. So really, like Tampa Bay was the only challenge that they had for a opposing quarterback. The game that they played in week 2 was the one that put J.J. McCarthy on the bench. Minnesota was only able to put up 6 points in that game, and then they faced Bryce Young in a blowout. They actually got blown out 30-0 last week, and I don't think Bryce Young played a huge role in that. if I remember right. Let's take a look at the box score. I like doing this to give me an idea of when I see that Atlanta's only giving up X amount of points to wideouts. I want to understand why. So yeah, Bryce Young, the passing game really wasn't needed. I think the defense must have scored a couple of scores in this one, but they got a rushing touchdown out of Bryce Young, a rushing touchdown out of Rico Dowdle. No passing touchdowns though. So, this game was out of hand before it even had a chance to do anything for the wideout. So, don't take too much note of how good Atlanta's defense has been against wideouts, because they haven't really been tested. And Washington this week is going to give them like a decent test with Debo, high powered offense. I would expect to see Washington be able to do something against this defense. So Debo, Luke McCaffrey will be interesting as a play. 56 yards off of 3 targets last week. He scored a touchdown last week. He was drafted last year, hasn't really done anything. He's at 3,400 this week, but this could be his opportunity. He's a guy that you're going to want to dig into and get an idea of what Luke McCaffrey can do for you this week at 3,400. For tight ends, taking a look at the tight end situation here, Washington has a terrible matchup for tight end. Atlanta's been good against tight end. Washington has been middling against tight end, so Kyle Pitts might be in play. But I tend to maybe play Kyle Pitts if I'm stacking this game. He's had a decent amount of targets, 8, 5, and 6. Hasn't gotten a touchdown yet, but that's probably coming. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes in this game, actually. So Kyle Pitts, another guy you can keep on your radar, but not the best matchup. Moving on to New Orleans versus Buffalo. This is one where they're projecting a Buffalo blowout. Josh Allen can definitely score points in a blowout, but he's expensive, and you're going to need a lot of points out of it. It's a 48.5 point total with Buffalo as 16.5 point favorites. That's crazy. And New Orleans has given up 19.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They've given up 28 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, but there's too much inconsistency with that Buffalo wide receiver core. The only guy that has any sort of consistency on Buffalo that I would consider in a game like this where it's projected blowout is going to be James Cook. James Cook has gotten a monster workload so far this season, especially compared to his past seasons, and you can see it's paid off with 21, 29, and 23 DraftKings points. So James Cook is a guy that I think we leave in our player pool. He's really the main guy that I'd be interested in this game. I'm not really interested in anyone on the New Orleans side unless I'd want to consider Juwan Johnson. But Buffalo's only been giving up 4.5 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. They've only given up 6.4 to the slot. So not a whole lot that I'm interested in there for the New Orleans side of this. If we're looking at Cleveland and Detroit, this game we have a 44.5 point total with Detroit as 8.5 point favorites in this one. Cleveland's been actually a really good run defense. They've been vulnerable, though, against wideouts. They've been giving up 30 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. They've been good against the slot, only giving up 4.9 DraftKings points there. And tight end, they're middling against. But the position that sticks out the most is going to be wideouts. against Cleveland. So that might put Jameis Winston, or Jameson Williams in play this week. He hasn't done too much. He had a 21-point game in week 2. I don't know if he's going to get the volume, though, if Detroit is playing with a big enough lead in this one. But Jameson Williams could be interesting in this one. I'd say Isaac Tesla in this one. But I don't know if they're going to be throwing throughout the game, but like I would say that, maybe he gets an elevated opportunity if they are playing with that big of a lead. Sorry, guys. On the other side, with Cleveland, Detroit's been giving up 20 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, 25.4 to wideouts. Let's see what the quarterback position is. Did they bench Flacco yet? I wasn't sure if Flacco had been benched yet. Looks like he's still good to go, but like he's been a disappointment this year. And I don't have really any interest in starting him against Detroit. They are playing in a dome, but yeah, I just really don't have any interest in this game in general. I just think it's going to be either a low-scoring game due to the defenses, or it's going to be Detroit blowout game, and either one of those. I don't know how to play those apart from maybe Jameson Williams is the guy that's helping that blowout go. But otherwise, I'm not really interested in this game. Tennessee versus Houston. This is a game where we're looking at a 38.5-point total. Looks like the lowest total on the slate. Both these teams have been struggling. We've seen it with Cam Ward. First overall pick for Tennessee. He's got, like a rough coaching situation. He doesn't have any, Calvin Ridley's really his only weapon as far as wideouts. He's got the rookie Alik Maye, who's been doing pretty good this season. 13 DraftKings points last week, 15 the week before, and 3 the week before that. Scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. He was getting some hype in the preseason in best ball. Obviously, Nico Collins. Let's see what Tennessee is doing for wideouts. They're giving up 25.2 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, so Nico Collins would be in play. Nick Chubb is going to be in play in this one. Tennessee's given up 27.3 DraftKings points to the running back position. They're also giving up 12.6 to the slot. So if you wanted to kick the tires on Christian Kirk this week, he's at 4,400. That's pretty cheap. He started last week, only had 5.5 DraftKings points, but coming off of an injury last week. Nico Collins had his first breakout last week with 26.4, first breakout of the season. So he looked good last week. He's going to be in play. Ridley, he's just it's just a bad offense with Tennessee. Honestly, I think I'm sticking with Chubb this week. 15.2 DraftKings points a couple weeks ago. Only 5,100. Massive. What's the spread in this one? 7.5 point spread in this one. So he's a decent favorite in this one. They're playing at home. Don't be surprised to see Nick Chubb put up a good game against Tennessee this week. I don't hate keeping him in my player pool as a cheap running back option. Nico Collins, I don't mind playing him this week. And Tony Pollard actually doesn't have a bad matchup with Houston giving up 23 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. But, I don't know how much usage he's going to get. They probably continued to use him in the passing game, but 4 targets last week, 1 target and 1 target. He hasn't been getting a ton of targets, so I don't know, how game script proof he is. But Nick Chubb, I do like Nick Chubb this week. Woody Marks has been getting some usage, but he's still not really doing enough to put a dent in Nick Chubb just yet. So Nick Chubb, I think, is the guy that we want to target in this game, if anybody, and Nico Collins. Moving on to Carolina and New England. This is a game where we have a 43.5-point total. For some reason, Drake Maye is super popular this week. At least he was in some of the podcasts that I was listening to, but let me take a look and see what his ownership is. Looking at Drake Maye is the third highest owned quarterback this week, and he is at 5,500. He's done, he's done well. He's been scoring 20 DraftKings points a game over the last couple weeks, 26 in week 2. So he's not a bad play. I just not really interested in going to Drake Maye. I think we can get a similar situation where we got a guy in a competitive game. We might be getting what's his face? The cornerback back for New England. Let's take a look real quick. Christian Gonzalez. We might be getting Christian Gonzalez back this week. Let's take a look. He's questionable still. Missing some offensive linemen. Looks like we got some depth issues there. Let's check out Carolina. Xavier Legette is out. Jatavian Sanders is out. Coker is still on IR. All that makes me like Ted McMillan. He is also questionable. Chuba Hubbard is questionable. They're banged up. On the defense, we're missing a bunch of guys too. Bunch of starters, and we got some depth issues on top of that. So, if anything, like with the Patriots this week, Carolina's been giving up 22.4 DraftKings points a game to running backs. I mean, this might be a week to kick the tires on Henderson. We saw another fumble out of Stevenson last week. Henderson looks pretty interesting. They're 5.5-point favorites at home. They've said that Ramondre Stevenson's role is secure as the starter, but I would not be surprised if they gave Travion Henderson a chance. The only problem is, don't forget with Vrabel, the head coach, it took him years before he gave Derrick Henry an opportunity after they drafted him. And Derrick Henry was like rotting away on their bench for a couple years before they finally gave him an opportunity at a starter. So, maybe they like slow rolling their rookies. So Travion Henderson, we could get an opportunity out of him at 5,200. So he's a guy that we can keep in our player pool, but don't be surprised if, they slow roll him all season. As far as the rest of this game, Ted McMillan was the other guy that I like. Let's see what his injury is. his calf. Expected to play, but he's got a calf injury. I don't like that, especially when we have so many good options this week. But Ted McMillan getting a massive share of that workload. Let me see what his target share is. .3% of the team's targets. 50% against man coverage. And let's see how much man coverage New England is running. I got New England at 47% man coverage. That's a middling amount. Let's see. Looks like it's actually a top 10 rate. Let's see. And their coverage grade is bottom 5. So, yeah, Ted McMillan's going to be in a good spot this week. The only problem is that calf. But, yeah, Ted McMillan's a guy that we want to leave in our player pool. He's going to get the opportunity. He's got the matchup, and that's the perfect storm that we're looking for. And Carolina, if Drake Maye is as popular, plays up to his expectations, then we should see Carolina remaining aggressive throughout this game. So that's going to put Ted McMillan in play. Not really interested in any of these Patriots receivers. I'm sick of trying to figure them out, honestly. And we got a lot of other receivers on the slate that we can focus our attention on. I do like Hunter Henry this week. He got 29 DraftKings points last week, but 11 targets, and he's had 8 targets in week 1. The Panthers are giving up 15.4 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So that's what is going to make Hunter Henry even more interesting to me this week. Let's see if we got any more nuggets on him. All right, so Carolina's allowing a 78% catch rate and 9.7 yards per target, according to Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis, to tight ends. So good matchup for Hunter Henry. I like him this week, and I don't mind if we get in a salary situation to give Travion Henderson a stab as a way to pivot off of Drake Maye. And I like Ted McMillan. So those are the 3 guys in that game. Going to the Chargers versus the Giants. This game, we are looking at a 44.5 point total with Chargers as 6.5 point favorites in this one. Good matchup for Justin Herbert. I just don't know how much they're going to be needing him against the Giants. The Giants have looked terrible. They got Jackson Dart coming in for Russ this week. Now, Jackson Dart's at 4,500 this week, and we could see something out of him. But this is a pretty tough defense to be coming in against. They are giving up 15.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They're only giving up 16.9 to wideouts. That's bottom 10. But they are giving up 14.6 to slot receivers. Malik Neighbors only runs 22% of his routes in the slot. Wandale, it would be a better matchup for. But I'm guessing with Jackson Dart, they're going to be having him throwing to Malik Neighbors as much as possible. So, you could take your chances on him. I think that Neighbors would probably get a decent amount of volume with them playing from behind. For the LA side, the slot receivers have been getting the most DraftKings points out of the Giants. They've been getting 16.9. We got 2 slot receivers here in Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey. So if we're looking over at Ladd McConkey doesn't have any red zone targets or any end zone targets, I should say, so far this season. Those have all gone to Quentin Johnson and Keenan Allen. Looking at those two, Keenan Allen would be my preferred target just because he runs a decent amount in the slot. He gets the red zone targets, and he has the better matchup overall here. Teams are targeting the slot at a 40% clip, and Keenan Allen's running over 40% of his routes out of the slot, about 44% of his routes. So Keenan Allen is the guy that I like this week. And he's been Justin Herbert's favorite target, just like we were projecting in the preseason. Let's see. Quentin Johnson. The Giants have given up 24 DraftKings points a game to wideouts, and Quentin Johnson's looked better every week. He's still pretty cheap at 5,500, so I don't mind throwing him in there if you guys want to use him. But, he's not going to be a priority for me. I'd much rather go with Keenan Allen if I'm going to pick someone from this game. And even more than Keenan Allen, the running back position has been getting 26 DraftKings points a game against New York. One other thing with New York I'm looking at here, they run a lot of man coverage. So let's see who benefits the most for man coverage on the Chargers. Keenan Allen has a 29% target share against man coverage, and Giants are playing it at a top 5 rate. So it gives you an idea. Quentin Johnson is also really good against man coverage, in addition to Keenan Allen. So those are the two guys that you can really focus on if you want to play anyone from this game. Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson are the guys that I would probably be targeting in this one. You could go different and go with McConkey, but I think that Johnson and Allen should be relatively low owned, with people focusing most of their attention on some of these afternoon games. Let's get an idea here of where they're falling. Keenan Allen, looking at about 12% ownership. If we go with Quentin Johnson, under 10% there. So Quentin Johnson would be the sneakier play here. And he's got, he's got all the opportunity in the world. Like I said, I kind of want to focus on Omarion Hampton. We lost Najee Harris to an Achilles, so it looks like Hampton is going to be taking complete control of this backfield. He had 25 DraftKings points last week. Finally got that breakout from a highly touted rookie and a highly drafted rookie in Hampton. So he is definitely a guy that we can keep in our player pool and as one of our priority targets at 5,900. Scatterboo had a pretty good game on, I believe they played on Monday. He had 24 DraftKings points against the Chiefs. But, I don't know if I'm buying it just yet with this guy. He seems like he's getting too much hype. And it's a lot to do with his personality. I would lean Omarion Hampton before I go with Cam Scatterboo if I had the choice at around the same price tag. So I do like Hampton better, especially with the potential game script in this one too. Scatterboo, I don't mind him, but I want to see him have some more decent games. And Tyrone Tracy won't be competing with him for touches. He's out for a few weeks, I believe. All right, we're going to move on to Philly and Tampa Bay. Philly and Tampa Bay is one of the games that I think has potential to go over the total. We're looking at a 44.5 point total in this one with Philly as 3.5-point favorites. They're playing in Tampa Bay. I like those home dogs. And Tampa Bay, last year when they lost Evans and Godwin, they stayed aggressive. They kept winning games. They shifted their offense to focus on running backs and tight ends last year and Jalen McMillan. This year's rendition of Jalen McMillan is going to be Emeka Egbuka, who we've seen already get a decent amount of work in this offense. He had 23 DraftKings points, 12 and 14. He's had 3 touchdowns already, 8 targets, 7 targets, 6 targets. Baker Mayfield's going to continue to be aggressive, especially in a game like this. Let's go and look at some of the recent performances that Baker has had against these Eagles. Going to go to Pro Football Reference. Scroll down to Philly. All right, so he played Philly in last year and in 2023, both when he was with Atlanta. That's what we like to see. Last year, this game, he had 347 yards, 2 touchdowns against Philly. Let's take a look at that box score. So Evans and Godwin were still in that one. Evans had 14 targets. Godwin had 9. Otten had 9 in that one too. Now, when the main targets went out last year, Baker started focusing in on his tight ends and his running backs in the passing game. And I kind of like Bucky Irving. He doesn't have the best matchup, but I think he's going to get a ton of targets in this game. He had 4 targets last week, 6 targets in week 2, and 4 targets in week 1. Do not be surprised if they start to use Bucky Irving more in the pass game, especially with missing all the players that they're missing. We might see Chris Godwin come back this week, but he's coming off a pretty devastating injury, and looks like he's expected to play. So that should push Egbuka out to the wideout position. And Philly's given up 28.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. So Egbuka is going to be in play this week. I think this game could get aggressive. I think it could shoot out a bit. The Eagles finally went to their passing game last week, and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts were talking up how much they liked going to the pass game and talking how they need to stay aggressive and keep up with the pass game. Yet to be seen if the coaches actually listen to them. They have a internally promoted offensive coordinator on the Eagles who's calling the plays, and they've been very run heavy. They've taken all the explosiveness out of that offense, and their offense has not looked as good as it looked last year, but we did see a taste of what they could potentially do last week when we saw the passing game light up. So don't be surprised if we see the Eagles turn to the pass game in this one too. And that will keep Tampa Bay aggressive. We already know that Tampa Bay wants to be aggressive. They're going to be playing at home in Tampa Bay, which will get them all fired up on top of it. But I do like Hurts in this one. Tampa Bay's been giving up 19 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They've been very strong against the run. They've been giving up 21 DraftKings points against the run, but they do have a good run defense and should be able to slow Barkley down. Let's see what Barkley did in that last game against Tampa. Get an idea of how they did against him. So Barkley had 10 rushes for 84 yards. He added 2 receptions for 32 yards, so it didn't really do too much against them. If I was going to stack this game, I would probably focus on the Eagles side. The Bucs have given up 13.7 DraftKings points a game to the slot position. So I might try Hurts to DeVonta Smith. This could be a week where they decide to get DeVonta Smith going. I'd run it back with maybe Igbuka and Irving, because I think that they're going to target a lot of Irving. They're going to target a lot of Igbuka, and they're going to target a lot of Otten. They're going to try to get Godwin going. I don't know if Godwin is going to be recovered enough to have a big game, but there's plenty of guys that we can use in this game to to make a nice game stack on a game that I think could potentially go over the total and could end up being the game to own this week, which is obviously going to be an important thing to figure out. All right, so we're going to Indy to the Rams. All right, going on to Indy versus the Rams. This is another game that I like to target. We're looking at a 49.5 point total. So this is the highest game on the slate, but most people are going to be focused on, I think, Kansas City, Baltimore, or Chicago, Las Vegas. And this one has a tight spread too. We got a 3.5 point spread. Let's look at the quarterback situation for ownership real quick. Daniel Jones is under 10%, so I like to see that. See some of his weapons real quick. Adonai Mitchell has more ownership than I'd like at 10%, but he's a guy that should benefit this week from Alec Pierce being out, Alec Pierce. And Pittman should also be in a good situation this week. Now, one thing important about this game is going to be the injury report, because we're missing a pretty good starter on the Rams. Akello Witherspoon is out, and that's going to put Emmanuel Forbes as the starting right cornerback. If you remember last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, Emmanuel Forbes was a guy that we were targeting heavily. We targeted, I think it was A.J. Brown against him one week, and it was the week that Emmanuel Forbes, before that game, had to delete his Twitter account because he was getting so much heat for giving up a monster game to AJ Brown, and we targeted him. I can't remember with who, and the guy ended up going off. But here we go again with Emmanuel Forbes. He's going to be the primary cornerback due to Witherspoon being out, and Rich Rebar had a nice nugget over at Sharp Football Analysis for this. Let's see what it was. The Rams missed Witherspoon on the outside last week. They allowed 9.1 yards per target to outside receivers, which was a bottom 10. And, that's going to benefit Adonai Mitchell, and that's going to benefit Michael Pittman. If I'm looking specifically at the right cornerback, that's going to be Michael Pittman, who benefits the most from that injury. And Adonai Mitchell already had a pretty decent matchup. The Rams are giving up 25.6 DraftKings points a game to the wideout position. So we're looking at Pittman at 19.3 and 20 DraftKings points already this season. He's got a nice matchup. If we want to look over at Adonai Mitchell, he was a highly touted rookie last year. He's yet to do anything to kind of make a name for himself. If I'm doing my pick'em, I'm going to look and see if Adonai Mitchell, what is what's the word I'm looking for? What his accelerator is with boosting up that pick'em, because I mean he could send a pick'em depending on like what number they assign to him. Could end up being like a 60x return on a pick'em, adding Adonai Mitchell into several other pick'ems that should be pretty much layups. So he's a guy that I'm going to be considering for my heat seeker this week in my underdog video. For those of you who've been following along with those, that's the one where we hit the 87 to 1, or not 87 to 1, but 87x return. I like DeVonta Adams this week too. Looks like he's hurt. He's got a hamstring injury. Never like to see that. We got Puka Nacua too. Like this game, just there's so much weapons on both sides, and they're both aggressive teams, that this is a game that could easily shoot out. It's one that we're going to want to keep on our radar. The Colts have been pretty good against wideouts so far, but they're, this is the Rams. The Rams can figure out a way to attack this offense. The Rams have only been giving up 9.4 DraftKings points a game to to the running back. That's going to be Jonathan Taylor. So, that makes me like this passing game even more. I want to get an idea of what the ownership's going to be like on Taylor. Taylor's looking at like close to a 20% ownership, 15 to 20%. So, that could be a good pivot to the passing game in this one. And play this for a shootout while everyone's focused on Baltimore, KC, or Chicago, Vegas. So plenty of guys that I like in this one. And on top of it, Tyler Warren has been getting the majority of the work in this offense, the majority of the targets in this offense. Get an idea what his ownership is. Yeah, and he's looking like he's going to be the highest owned tight end on the slate. So, good matchup, good opportunity, and he's going to be highly owned. The Rams have only been giving up 11 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, so this could be a pivot to Daniel Jones throwing to Mitchell and Pittman in this one. So you could run it back easily with Puka or Kyren Williams. Potentially, they've been giving up 19.5 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. Plenty of ways to play this one, but there's a lot of weapons in this game, and I would not be surprised to see it be a nice shootout for us. Let's go to the Jags versus San Francisco. This one is looking at a 46.5 point total with San Francisco as 3.5 point favorites. San Francisco's got some injuries. We'll take a look at that. The big one is Nick Bosa is now on season-ending IR. He tore his ACL. So that's going to significantly weaken the pass rush of the 49ers. And we got Taron Jackson is on IR. A bunch of guys are out on IR. They are just decimated, San Francisco. They cannot stay healthy. And it's a chronic thing with them. It's been happening for years. Same on the offense. Bunch of guys are questionable or out. Looks like we got Brock Purdy back this week. So it's going to be Purdy throwing to Pearsall and Jennings. I like both those guys. The Jags giving up 33.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. And both these guys run a decent amount of their routes out wide. Pearsall runs only 24% in the slot, and Juwan Jennings is 29% in the slot, so they're mainly out wide, which both of them are going to be set up for decent games in this one. The tight end position is, Kittle is hurt. He's out. The running back position, we could see some, passing work from Christian McCaffrey in this one, but Jacksonville's only giving up 14 DraftKings points a game to the running back position, and Christian McCaffrey has not looked that great this year. On the Jacksonville side, the slot receivers are the ones with the best matchup, but it's really, how much can you stomach Trevor Lawrence? They're only giving up, San Francisco is only giving up 16.3 to running backs, 13.7 to quarterbacks. But like I said, with Bosa out, who knows how that's going to change. And they've only been giving up 13.3 to wideouts. So I really don't like anyone on Jacksonville, but I wouldn't mind using Pearsall or Jennings as one-offs for San Francisco this week. Take a look at them real quick. Pearsall had 117 yards, 108 yards already, 22 and 17 DraftKings points. And with Juwan Jennings, he had 19.9 his last game, and he looked really good. So either one of these guys could be a one-off this week. You want to keep an eye on those injuries, though. Baltimore at Kansas City. Let's see. We're looking at a 48.5 point total, another high total game, 2.5 point spread in favor of Baltimore. I would look for this one to go under the total because I don't think Kansas City is going to be able to keep up with Baltimore necessarily. They're playing in Kansas City. They just have not been good in a few years, and I don't know how they keep getting these high point totals, but look at these scores that they've had so far against the Chargers, 21-27. So they hit that 48 in that game. Week 2 against Philly, they lost 17-20. So there was only a 37-point game there. And then last week they beat the Giants 22-9. So a 31-point game there. Mahomes is definitely capable of putting up fantasy points. I would look for him to put up 20 plus points in this one, but mainly due to his scrambling. He's got no weapons. This is other things. We get Worthy back this week, but he's got a torn labrum. But look at who else he's throwing to. Hollywood Brown, he hasn't done anything. Brown is a revenge game against the Ravens, where he started his career. We got Thornton, who's been fun, but that's about it. They're trying to force these deep balls to Thornton, which I like with Thornton, and his price hasn't caught up to it yet. He's still at 4K, so they're force feeding him the ball way downfield. So Thornton could easily get a long touchdown in this one. If they're going to live up to that lofty total, it's going to be because of Thornton. Thornton catches a ball. Kelsey is washed. He's way too old, and he's getting angry. Grumpy old man. He's like bumping into Andy Reid and trying to start stuff on the sidelines. Did a lot of that last year too, but like Kelsey has been washed for a couple years now. He did have a touchdown in week 1 in that showdown, ended up screwing us. So I got a little bit of bitterness towards Kelsey, but really, he hasn't. He's been getting the targets, but look at these yardage totals: the 26 yards off 7 targets. So he doesn't have Kelsey. He doesn't have a healthy Worthy. We're looking at guys like Hollywood Brown, Thornton, who I like, Juju Smith-Schuster, guys like that, like just a bunch of scrubs. And I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up with Baltimore. I don't believe that total. I do like Thornton, though. I think Thornton could have a decent game. Baltimore is giving up 19.6 to wideouts. So, that's where they're going to be the most vulnerable. They're giving up 22 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position, but keep in mind that they had that game against Buffalo in week 1 where Buffalo scored like a ridiculous amount of points. I think Josh Allen's probably scored like 45 DraftKings points in that one. So that skewed that big time. Slots have been getting 14 DraftKings points a game against Baltimore. And tight ends have been getting 15.9, but I'm not buying in on Kelsey. Not on an 11-game slate. Baltimore, Kansas City has been they've been pretty bad against tight ends for a couple years. They've been better against them this year. They're only giving up 6.1 DraftKings points, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Mark Andrews do something this week. Lamar Jackson in these matchups on top of it, like Lamar Jackson, he's been putting up fantasy points against the Chiefs, but mainly through his scrambling and running. But his passing has not been good against the Chiefs. They've been able to contain him for the most part. All the more for this game to go under that total. And there's not a whole lot I like in this game outside of Thornton, honestly, and maybe Andrews. Who's the slot receiver for Baltimore? Is that Flowers? Flowers is 35% out of the slot. Hopkins is 42 outside of the slot, and running out of the slot. That's where Kansas City's weak, and Hopkins played for Kansas City last year, so nice little revenge angle there. But other than that, we might get Likely back. So if Likely's back, I don't like Andrews nearly as much, but Tyquan Thornton's probably the guy. Or if you wanted to go with Derrick Henry, one thing that killed me last week is I didn't even put 2 and 2 together when there was a bunch of reporters were giving Mark Andrews a bunch of crap in the locker room about his slow start. Like that should have been the ultimate signal that Lamar was going to force him the ball in that game last week. I didn't have, I told people in the comment section in my showdown show to focus on a cheap captain and put in, the other guys around it. And I rattled off a few cheap captain options, but I didn't say Mark Andrews because, it just didn't click with me. And I should have thought of him because I remember seeing a press conference where, or an interview with Mark Andrews where they were just on him about having a slow start to the year, and he was saying, "Well, I'm doing good with my blocking," and they were just giving him a hard time, and you knew that Lamar Jackson or the offense would make an effort to get Andrews the ball and put him in a good spot. But yeah, just did not think about that last week. But Derrick Henry, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a good game this week against Kansas City. Kansas City's only giving up 18 DraftKings points a game. Or sorry, they're giving up 20 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. Baltimore's giving up 37.5, but we saw that nice New York matchup last week against Kansas City, and Kansas City couldn't do anything in the run game against New York. They're not going to do anything against Baltimore, and I think that Henry. This could be a Henry game. This could be a Henry rebound game on top of Thornton. All right, so Chicago, Vegas is going to be the most popular game this week. I do like Caleb Williams this week. Caleb Williams has definitely come alive with Ben Johnson this year. 24 DraftKings points, 18 and 29. So he's a fun guy to be able to play while he's still cheap at 5,800. Geno Smith's in a good spot too, with Chicago giving up 22.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. This game has a shootout written all over. We got a 47.5 point total, 1.5 point spread. The question is going to be, is Vegas going to be able to live up to their part of the bargain in this one? Let's go and take a look at the injury report just to see what we got over here. Take a look at Chicago first. Got some damage to the offensive line. If we're looking at the defense, looks like Grady Jarrett is out for the Bears. We're missing TJ Edwards again. So their linebackers are super banged up. Jalen Johnson still on IR. Terrell Smith on IR. So we're looking at a banged up Bears defense. This isn't going to get any better for the Bears until they start getting some of these players back. But that's going to be perfect for us in fantasy building. Michael Mayer is out for the Raiders. That's going to be huge for Brock Bowers. And then we got just a little bit of damage on the defense of the Raiders, but the Raiders defense hasn't really been good all season. Let's see. The Raiders giving up 18.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They're giving up 26.3 to wideouts. So that's good for Odunze and theoretically DJ Moore. I tried to pivot to DJ Moore in last week's game, and he didn't do a whole lot for me. What did DJ Moore get last week? 12.8 DraftKings points. He's been a disappointment, but DJ Moore's the type of guy, when you write him off, he's gonna come back with like a 30-point game. Odunze, 15 last week, 34 in week 2, and 15.7 in week 1. With the attention on Odunze, don't be surprised to see DJ Moore have a decent week one of these weeks coming up. And Burden, we saw out of Burden last week too, 22.8 DraftKings points. I should have put him in my damn DraftKings lineups, but I only put him in that underdog pick'em last week. Let's see. Slots have been doing good for both teams in this matchup. Bears are giving up 18.3. That's good for Jacoby Myers. Myers, another guy that we can use in this game. It's also good for Brock Bowers because he's going to be running a decent amount in the slot. He was injured a couple weeks in a row. We see those muted totals. But, don't be surprised to see Brock Bowers have a decent game. He's like the second highest owned guy on the slate on top of it. If Loveland is out, that's going to make Cole Kmet interesting. Definitely a better matchup for Bowers than Kmet. Vegas has only been giving up 7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position versus 15 that Chicago's been giving up. So slot receivers on both end, that's going to be Jacoby Myers and maybe Olamide Zaccheaus. We could see some good stuff out of him. DJ Moore runs 38% of his routes out of the slot, and Odunze's 39% of his routes out of the slot. So both those guys run a decent amount of slot routes too. And then the running back for Vegas, Ashton Genty, Chicago's given up 26 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. And if Geno Smith is going to be drawing a ton of ownership, let me see what Ashton Genty is going to be drawing this week. Yeah, people do not believe in Ashton Genty. He's under 15%. So he would be our pivot off of a chalky Geno Smith this week. So if we wanted to get different, we could go with Genty here. I also think Swift would be a good pivot if you want to pivot off of Williams, but I really like going Williams this week. It's one of those you gotta ride it until the wheels fall off type of thing. So let's go and start this build. I'll start with this game since I'm here. Gonna take a drink real quick. All right, let's take a look at this build. Gonna go with Caleb Williams. I'm gonna put Caleb Williams with. We'll go chalkier. No, let's go chalkier. Let's put him with Odunze. I want to put him with 2 guys. So I think maybe maybe Zaccheaus. Zaccheaus or Cole Kmet. Let's put him with Cole Kmet. I think Cole Kmet's going to have pretty low ownership. And he's been getting 4-2 and 1 target. Yeah, let's go with Cole Kmet. Let's look at the Vegas side here. I want to put Genty in. One guy I like too on is Deontay Thornton. The Bears have been giving up a lot of long passes and long receptions, and Deontay Thornton is perfect for that. Bears giving up 24.2 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. But I'm going to stick with Jacoby Myers here. So we got Caleb Williams to Odunze. We're running it back with Myers and Genty. We'll revisit this to see if we want to add anyone else in there. If I'm looking at the Eagles Tampa Bay game, if I'm expecting that to have somewhat of a a shootout situation, I want to get Egbuka in there, and I want to play. Let's get Myers in the flex. Let's put DeVonta Smith and let's get Egbuka in there. I already got him in there. Who did I take out? Jacoby Myers. Oop. All right, I'm going to put Myers in this one. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me 50 likes so I can put my favorite picks in the comment section later on. Subscribe to the channel. Also hit that hype button. Subscribe to the channel. Get me to 2,000 subscribers, and you want to subscribe to get access to the secret weapon that's coming out in a few weeks. We got 4,700 per guy. Let's take a look at our defense. See if there's anyone interesting. I don't mind Carolina's defense. I wouldn't mind going Carolina's just to counteract that Drake Maye love. Let's see if we can put Bowers in our lineup. Let's get Bucky Irving in there. So we got the two games. Two of the games that I like the most have a decent amount of guys in it. But I want to get some exposure to that Rams game too. Rams Indy. Maybe let's skip over the. Let's go with a one-off with Irving there. And let's look at this game. Let's try to get let's go with let's go with Pittman. Yeah. We need some salary. Let's just get Mitchell in there. And let's put Nakua in there. Let's look at our defense. And let's try to get a defense in here that's going to do something for us. Let's go with New England. And looking at 5,300 for our tight end. Doesn't quite get us to Bowers. If we wanted to use Bowers, we could easily kind of move over here to the defense and just downgrade our defense. Maybe we go with the Panthers in this one. Like I said earlier, Panthers got a pretty good defense this year so far. They put up 22 points last week against Atlanta. They did well again, or not well. They only got 3 against Arizona, but they held their own. They got 2 DraftKings points against Jacksonville in week 1. But New England's not a very good offense, but this gives us a pretty good team. Exposure to those games that I like. Let's clear this out. Let's go with a build with the Eagles. I like Jalen Hurts. I like DeVonta Smith as his stacking partner. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to go a little more overlooked than he should this week. And I like running it back with Bucky and Igbuka. Bucky's still cheap, and Igbuka is also cheap. He's going to get a massive workload. Let's move 4,800 per guy. Going to go to my defense. Let's get the Patriots in this one. So I want to get Cook. Let's get James Cook in this lineup. If I'm looking at a tight end, Buka. Let's see. Who else do I like for wide receivers? Let me look at my notes. Oh, Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney's going to be big for us this week. Let's put him in there. For tight ends, I liked Henry's matchup this week. Let's get him in there. But I want to get somebody in that Chicago-Vegas game. So let's see who can get at the flex. Burden would be really the only guy that we could get in at the flex. If we wanted to go a different route and go, let's take Cook out. Let's put in Genty. let's just hope for a Genty breakout. We could put Genty in there, and then on our flex, we could get like DJ Moore in there if we wanted to. We could downgrade our defense here and put in Odunze if we wanted to. That would give us $3K left for our defense. So we put in like the Commanders against Atlanta. I don't hate that. I don't hate the Rams versus Indy. Rams got a pretty good defense this year. But you could use any number of these guys for your defense. But I like the build here. We got that Tampa Bay Philly game covered. We've got the Chicago Las Vegas game covered. We got Mooney in there as our one-off, and Henry, and then like we can put in one of these defenses, 3K or under. Let's clear that one out. Let's go with the Daniel Jones lineup. This will be a fun one to do. So we got Daniel Jones. He's at 5,600. That's good. Let's put him with Pittman. We could put him with Mitchell too if we want to double stack. So we're going cheap already. Let's get Puka in there. All right, so now let's think of these other games that we want to stack. Let's get Cook in this one. Go with the safer floor here. And let's look at the defenses and get let's go with the Patriots again, I guess. Let's put Bowers in this one. That'll give us a Vegas guy. If we wanted to do Odunze, I don't think my gut tells me Odunze is not going to do anything this week. It's just too good of a spot, and everybody's going to be on him. And those are the spots where you typically see the guy just bust. Hampton. We could put Hampton in there. He's a guy that I like a lot. If we wanted to, like, it'd be a total pivot off of the chalky Bears, but we could go with DeAndre Swift. What's his questionable for? So he's dealing with a hip injury, which I don't like. But let's say he was healthy and we wanted to put him in there. You know what? We don't need to because we got Odunze in there already. But if we wanted to, let's put him in there and see what we could get if we took Odunze out of the flex. This is 6,900. We can get Bucky Irving in this build. Igbuka. You know, a bunch of guys that I like. Hampton, we can still use him if we want to leave salary on the table. But I mean, look at this lineup. This lineup's pretty good. We got Jones to Pittman and Mitchell. We're running it back with Nakua, and then we got Cook in that massive favorite game. We pivoted with Swift for Chicago, and we got him running back with Bowers in that good spot. And then, you know, we got plenty of great options that we could pick for 6,900. Favorite being Irving or Igbuka. So a lot of different options we can do there with Daniel Jones, the cheaper quarterback option. I like Daniel Jones. I like Caleb Williams. I like the Rams Indy game. I like the Eagles game, Eagles Bucs game, you know, and I like the Chicago Vegas game basically. So a lot of good options for us. You know, that Vegas game is going to be the highest owned one, which is what makes me like the other ones better. The Eagles game, I especially think has the potential to go off this week. I would look more towards DeVonta Smith as opposed to AJ Brown this week, and you know, there's plenty of guys you can run it back with over on the Bucs side. You know that Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are going to keep it aggressive, and you know it's kind of been their MO. And don't be surprised to see that game go over the total. But all right, guys, hit that like button. Give me the 50 likes so I can put my favorites in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys for Showdown.